It's your girl Ash, and I am back with another video, and today I'm going to be reacting to top 10 NASCAR drivers who never won a cup race. I actually seen two videos. I really didn't know which one to react to, so I chose the shorter one. I hope that's okay with you guys. And if you are new to this channel, I just wanted to tell you that I am new to the NASCAR world. If you guys would like to check out my NASCAR reactions, the link is going to be up there somewhere. Please forgive me if I ask some crazy questions. I'm still learning, and I appreciate everyone answering my questions in my previous videos and just dropping some knowledge for me. Enough of me talking. Let's get straight into this reaction.
As of this past weekend, thanks to Alex Bowman, there are now 192 different winners in NASCAR's top division. And with Daytona coming up this weekend, that number could jump up to 193. But that got me to thinking, who's the best of the rest? Of the nearly 3,000 different drivers who cranked up their engines in the Cup Series and never won, which of those guys was the best? Well, let's take a look. In order to make this list, you need two things. One, you have to be currently retired with no prospect of getting back into the Cup Series. And two, you have to have at least 50 starts. This weeds out some of the road course ringers who were no doubt very, very skilled in the Cup Series, but never competed full-time. We're looking at full-time competitors who focused on NASCAR's top division exclusively. So without further ado, let's get into this. Number 10, Ted Musgrave. Across 305 starts in the Cup Series, Ted Musgrave spent most of the early 90s driving for a variety of different teams before he landed with Roush Racing in 1994. He would get a top 5 and 3 poles that season, but in 1995 it really looked like he was about to break out, getting a pole, 13 top 10s, and 7 top 5s. But that one win would elude him for his entire career. In 1995, he even managed to have an average finish of 13th and placed 7th in the standings. The future looked bright for him, but he could just never make it happen. He would stick with Roush until 1998, and then he would jump ship. In 2001, he would drop down to the Truck Series, where he would find his greatest success. In just his first full-time season, he won 7 races and got 13 top 5s, and ended up second in the championship standings. From 2002 to 2004, he would get 3rd place in the championship standings 3 times in a row, and then in 2005, he finally put it all together and got a championship. Dropping down to the lower divisions ended up giving him his best success in his career, but it basically meant that he would never win that NASCAR Cup race. And so, here he sits in 10th on this list. At number 9, the most famous driver to never win a race in the Cup Series, Ralph Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt Sr. said he was the great...
So I have a question. I know that you guys said that the season starts in February. How long is the season? Yeah, how long is the NASCAR season? I don't think I asked that question before. Please comment down below and let me know how long is the NASCAR season and how long does it take to... Well, no, that's a stupid question because I was going to say, you know what? Never mind. Yeah, so comment down below and let me know how long is the NASCAR season.
Greatest driver he ever saw. But then again, it's his dad, so take that with a grain of salt. In just his first season in 1956, he won a pole position. He would make 51 starts in the top division, would nab 6 top 5s and 16 top 10s. He led 105 laps across 7,000 laps of competition, too. In 1956 as well, he won the Sportsman Championship in NASCAR, which was basically the precursor to the Busch Series, now the Xfinity Series. He was also the track champion at my hometown track of Greenville-Pickens Speedway in 1965 and 1966. He came from an impoverished part of North Carolina and never really had that much money, so competing in the Cup Series was always just financially out of reach for him. Now, if he had the money or got scouted out by a good team, I have no doubt that he probably would have made hundreds of more starts and probably would have won a few races. But with his financial situation, the Sportsman Series was basically going to be his home, and that's where he found his greatest success. Tragically, in 1973, his life was cut short at the age of 45 due to a heart attack. And considering that most drivers at the time would race all the way into their late 50s, we really don't know what he would have done later in life. Ralph Earnhardt will live on, however, as a legendary driver throughout the Southeast weekly racing scene. Number 8, Wally Dalenbach J. Wally Dalenbach didn't just never win a race in NASCAR's top division, he never won a race at any division. Wow. Despite driving for the likes of Felix Sabates and Rick Hendrick, he could just never...
How you never ever win? But I guess that's kind of like some of the basketball players when they have like those. I'm really not into sports. Well, the only sport that I watch is boxing. That's the only sport that I watch. I watch UFC and MMA too, but boxing is definitely like my expertise. But that's kind of like basketball, no? When they have the bench players sitting on there and they just, they're backups just in case if something happened. And sometimes they never play in the game, no?
Nabbed that top spot. He was the 1985 and 86 Trans Am Series champion, and he had won the 24 Hours of Daytona 4 times and the 12 Hours of Sebring 3 times. There was no doubt about it, he was a master of sports car racing. However, he could just never wheel around those big, heavy, dumb NASCAR stock cars. While he was driving for Bud Moore, it looked like he had a race at Sonoma in the bag, but he just couldn't wrap that one up either. Across his career, he had 226 starts, 6 top 5s, and 23 top 10s.
Damn.
Not a terrible career by any stretch of the imagination, but he had his chances, and by the time the 2000s came around, nobody wanted to sign him, except NBC Motorsports, where he became one of my favorite commentators. Success never found him in the track, but in the booth, there were few who could rival him. Number 7, Todd Bodine. Todd Bodine is the 2006 and 2010 Truck Series champion, and likely would have won the 2003 Busch Series championship had his team, Herzog-Jackson Motorsports, not lost funding entirely. They went sponsorless for pretty much the whole season, and by the halfway point, they had closed up shop. Despite that, though, he finished top 5 in the Busch Series standings 5 times. In the Cup Series, though, he had 241 starts, 7 top 5s, 21 top 10s, and 5 poles. And he did this while driving for garbage teams, by the way. He never had a quality ride in that division, ever. And if you want my opinion, I think he was far better than his older brother, Brett Bodine, who actually won a race, under dubious circumstances and a possible scoring error. I honestly think had he ever gotten a quality ride and gotten his sea legs under him, he probably could have made a good career as a NASCAR Cup Series competitor, and probably even won a few races. However, once he dropped down to the Truck Series and started winning so much in that division, you were going to be hard-pressed to get him out of that ride. And so, winless in the Cup Series, he became. Number 6, Mike Skinner. Mike Skinner made a name for himself in the Truck Series when it began in the mid-90s. He'd win the inaugural championship and win 8 races that season. In 1996, he would win 8 races again. And in 1997, he was brought in as the second car for RCR and Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s teammate with Lowe's sponsorship. And in that first year of competition, he won the pole for the Daytona 500. Greatness surely awaited Mike Skinner in the Cup Series. And although he showed a lot of promise, he just could not perform at that level. He would have 10 top 5s, 39 top 10s, and would win 6 poles across his career. That just wasn't good enough to keep him in the ride, though. And by the time the 2001 season had wrapped up, they booted him out in favor of Robbie Gordon. He would drop back down to the Truck Series and would start winning again immediately. Although he doesn't compete in NASCAR.
So, let's just say if you don't win in the NASCAR, let's just say if you don't win, the teams basically like drop you. They don't pick you up. You don't get endorsed. Comment down below and let me know. Don't kill me if I'm asking crazy questions, y'all.
Anymore. He does compete in the Goodwood Festival of Speed, where he always impresses in the hill climb. Everybody laughs at that big, dumb, stupid NASCAR truck until it always goes to the top of the board. Yet Mike Skinner could definitely wheel a car around, and if he had ever changed teams or shaken things up a little bit instead of just dropping out entirely, he probably could have done pretty good in the Cup Series and maybe even gotten that first win. Number 5, Buddy Arrington. Buddy Arrington competed in the Cup Series from the mid-1960s all the way to the late 1980s, and he did this pretty much the entire time as an owner-driver. He had 560 starts, 15 top 5s, 103 top 10s, but only led 14 laps in his entire career. What was holding him back? Well, really just his unyielding loyalty to Chrysler Corp. For him, it was Mopar or no car. In 1978, Dodge debuted the Magnum, which Richard Petty absolutely hated and could not make work for the life of him, so he switched to Monte Carlos later that year. But Buddy Arrington, he stuck with the Magnum, for better or for worse, and it was definitely worse. In 1981, NASCAR switched to smaller, more compact bodies, to more resemble production cars out on the street. Dodge introduced the Murata, and Chrysler introduced the Imperial, but they didn't have any factory backing. They had only introduced the bodies. Buddy Arrington stuck with the Murata and the Imperial for as long as he could, all the way until 1985 when the rules stipulated that he just couldn't run those body types anymore, and then he begrudgingly made the switch to Ford. Now, had he actually signed with a real team that had real backing, and wasn't so shackled to Chrysler when they had clearly backed out of the sport, he probably could have gotten at least one win. But hey, props where props are due. He wanted to drive Chrysler Corp cars, and by God, he drove.
He seemed like he was one of those people that's just like stuck in their ways. You know how some people really don't like to try something new? And he definitely seems like he's one of those people that's just like stuck in their ways. It's just like, no, I'm used to driving this. This is what I'm going to drive. This is what I like to drive.
Chrysler Corp cars. And speaking of owner drivers, let's get to number 4 on our list, J.D. McDuffie. Most famous for being the guy who started the most races without ever winning a single one, J.D. McDuffie started 653 races in his career.
What?
He had 12 top 5s, 106 top 10s, and actually led a good number of laps across his career. Actually, the majority of his laps led came from a single race in Nashville in 1979. He led 111 laps that day, but ended up losing to Kel Yarborough, who had led 80 or so. It seemed like he had that race in the bag, but that one victory would just slip away.
I mean, at some point, is it considered bad luck, or is it that you just suck? Which one is it? I don't know. That's...
And in my research, I found out this little fun fact, which is so unbelievable I actually had to double check it to make sure it was right. But across those 653 starts, he never finished on the lead lap, ever. I'm pretty sure if I started 653 races, I could finish on the lead lap at least once by sheer accident. But J.D. McDuffie,
Sure
again,
accident.
an owner driver, always played it safe.
Bad
No
luck.
need to go out there and risk one of his precious few cars. And so, here he sits at 4th on this list. And starting with the top 3, we get to some pretty familiar names. Starting with 3rd on this list, Rick Mast. This one really surprised me in my research. I thought for sure Rick Mast had won a race in the Cup Series. I remember as a kid during the 90s, he always qualified well. He had 4 poles in his career, including the pole position at the inaugural Brickyard 400. He had 364 starts, 7 top 5s, and 36 top 10s. He also had 9 wins in the Xfinity Series during the late 80s. And oddly enough, his most iconic car, the Skull Classic #1, was the biggest thing holding him back. Now, you might have noticed that Harry Gant, driving the number 33 Skull Bandit, has basically the same sponsor as Rick Mast. And that's because
look
the
at
Jackson
that.
brothers, Leo and Richard, had split at some point. Richard Jackson started his own race team with the #1, and Leo Jackson stuck it out with Harry Gant in the 33. Instead of unifying and coming together to make an unbeatable team, they had gone their separate ways, and both of them suffered for it. Rick
Damn.
Mast would leave the team during the mid-90s, and after that, age had just caught up with him. He would retire in the early 2000s, solidifying his place on this list. Let's get to number 2 on this list, some NASCAR royalty. Probably the most famous NASCAR driver just by virtue of his name, Dick Trickle. Yeah, he has a hilariously unfortunate name, but hey, it made him famous.
Dick Trickle.
Did you meet Dick Trickle?
Eric.
What? He's a race car driver. His name is Dick Trickle.
During the 70s and 80s, Dick Trickle was probably the most dangerous short track racer in America. By most estimates, he won between 1,000 and 2,000 short track features all across America, mostly in the Midwest. Before they became NASCAR legends, Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, and Alan Kawicki had to best Dick Trickle on Saturday night short tracks. Although he had made a few random starts in NASCAR's top division during the 70s and early 80s, he never started full-time in the series until 1989, filling in for an injured Bobby Allison. That year, he would end up being the Rookie of the Year at age 48.
Damn.
So why didn't he ever just step up to NASCAR competition earlier? Well, according to everybody that knew him and worked for him, he was making so much money by just dominating local short tracks that going up to the top tier series of NASCAR was never even really a consideration. Financially, it would have been a step down for him. The big money sponsorship deals just weren't there yet. His
Money
Cup
talk.
Series stats are this: 303 starts, 15 top 5s, and 36 top 10s. Oddly enough, his rookie year would be the best year of his career. Now, had he got started earlier, say in his mid-20s or so, he definitely would have won a race, in my opinion. No question. It was just he was so busy dominating short tracks all over America and making so much money doing it that he just never bothered. By most people's estimates, he was probably the highest paid stock car driver in America for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, who needs to move up to the big leagues when you're making twice as much money as they are? Gotta say, Dick, my hat's off to you. And for number 1 on this list, how about a guy you've probably never heard of? Cecil Gordon. Bearing no relationship to Jeff Gordon or Robbie Gordon, he had 449 starts in the Cup Series, 29 top 5 finishes, and 111 top 10 finishes. Every time he cranked up his engine, he had 1 in 4 odds of getting a top 10 that day. That's really impressive. Lots of guys today would kill for that kind of ratio. He finished top 10 in the points 7 different times, and he finished 3rd in the points twice, in 1971 and 1973. Those 2 years are very significant significant because 1971 is pre-modern era and 1973 is post-modern era. In the pre-modern era NASCAR, they were making routinely 40 to 60 starts in NASCAR's top division every year. That year, he showed up to 48 races, never won a single one, and still managed to be third in the points, besting the likes of Buddy Baker, Elmo Langley, Bobby Allison, and Benny Parsons. In 1973 post-modern era, there were only 28 races. That meant that even more drivers could make every single race, and so competition got even stiffer. Still, he managed to get third place in the points. That year, he bested the likes of James Hilton, Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, Bobby Allison, Elmo Langley again, Buddy Arrington, and tons of other drivers. That year, the only two drivers that were better than him were Benny Parsons and Cale Yarborough. He was an owner driver pretty much his entire career, and what makes this even more insane is he only led 23 laps in his entire career. He wouldn't dominate, but he would always show up and always race well. And pretty much the only way to do better than Cecil Gordon in the points was to just go out and win. And even then, if you won a few races that season, that still wasn't a guarantee. It's just staggering how few DNFs he had with as little money as he had and that little race shop he had out in North Carolina. I don't know what kind of voodoo they did to those engines to make sure they would always turn every single lap, but it must have worked. So yeah, there it is, Cecil Gordon, the greatest NASCAR driver who never won a race in the Cup Series. I'm Slapshoes, y'all take it easy.
I don't know why, but I always just thought it was like so easy to just win. Like I never knew that there's an actual strategy when it comes to like NASCAR. Like I did not know this until recently. This is so cool to just learn about. Oh my goodness. Wow. I wonder how the NASCAR drivers feel that, you know, that never won a cup race. I wonder if they care. I wonder if it bothers them. And also, this is what I wanted to ask. So when they win the championship, does one individual win it? It seems like yes. But if one individual wins, how is there a team? Wouldn't the whole team win? Like as if it's like basketball or football. I'm sorry if that is like literally a dumb question, but the previous videos that I watched, they said that there are teams. I could have sworn that's what I heard. But comment down below and let me know. I know that's probably like a stupid question, but I had to ask. If I don't ask, I won't know. I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. Give your girl a thumbs up. Share, like, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, fam.